It's time to get sexy, so watch Secular Sexuality Live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTSS and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callsex.
Hello, fellow skeptics, and welcome back to another episode of the Nonprofits. Let me say that one more time. Hello, our fellow skeptics, and welcome back to another episode of the Nonprofits, the show where we discuss news and topics of the day from a skeptical, humanist perspective. My name is Cynthia, and today's topics are making the American hosts of the ACA show draw lots to see which Canadian hosts are going to be taking us in. I just got my passport. I'm just saying. And don't worry, Cindy. You're
Dibs on Cynthia.
I'm okay. I was about to tell Cindy, you're our European and British hosts are not exempt. Speaking of exempt, let's introduce our host. And none of you are exempt in my eyes. None of you. So I'm going to start with my far left, I think. Nate! How you doing? You are here.
Hey,
I missed you so
I am
much,
here.
my friend.
It has been a hot minute since I have been on the Nonprofits. So
Yes.
I am glad to be back, and I do have a spare room for anyone who needs to go camping. Right? We don't need to talk about where you're going camping, but if you need a place to start off with, you can definitely go camping from here.
I've never found myself to be an outdoorsy type, but I may start taking up a new hobby. Speaking of hobbyists, Kelley, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing, Cynthia, and I'm doing even better because I get to be here with three of my favorite people. So, if you're in a really bad mood, you need to stay away from me because I'm just going to bring you down even more.
That's why we are here. Thank you for watching Nonprofits, where we are guaranteed to depress you. And speaking of, I feel like now that I said that, I feel like that I should be like in a French cafe drinking um, black coffee with no sugar, smoking a cigarette, listening to accordion music, along with one of my favorite hosts, Cindy Plaza. How you doing, love?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm really glad to be here again here with you. Um, yeah, tonight it's going to be pretty hard.
Yeah, it is. And guys, we're going to try to keep this as jovial as possible, but it's really bad in the United States right now. So we're going to try. And this is the reason why we asked Nate and Cindy to please join us, because they're really just all looking at us and going, anyway.
Oh, it's not ha. It's oh my fucking god. Really? Again?
Yeah.
Again?
Yeah.
We used to be such good friends. What's happening? Get off the pipe, America.
Yeah. That and then some. And speaking of, I was trying to find a good segue to say that this show is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the separation of religion and government and promoting positive atheism. But there no segue. Just read the damn thing. So we got that out the way. So today, guys, we're going to talk about some things. In our first segment, we're going to talk about Representative Lauren Boebert. I think that's Boebert. Is it Boebert? 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 Okay.
More like Boebert.
Boebert said some things, and we're going to talk about some of the things that she said, specifically about the First Amendment. Our second segment is going to be about the Establishment Clause and freedom of religion being muddled. And then the next thing that we're going to talk about is the slippery slope of SCOTUS decisions. And finally, we're going to wrap up this dog and pony show about Supreme Court's faux originalism. As with all of our shows, links to today's topics and the news we discuss are available in the description below. And a reminder that if you want to come into the show prepared, you can check out the nonprofit's Facebook fan page every Friday night for a list of
Hey,
take us into what
I'm
the
going to
shit
talk about a.
Congressional apologist said.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. I'm so glad I get to go first, so I don't have to follow any of you three. I'd be really embarrassed. This is an article from it's written by Press from 6/28/22, and it talks about our good friend Lauren Boebert, who doesn't think the state is not supposed to direct what the church does, but the other way around, that the church should say what the government does. And of course, that's a break with our great establishment clause in the First Amendment of the Constitution. This is kind of par for the course for Boebert, though. She's nothing but a right-wing hack trying to make a name for herself instead of actually legislating. I mean, she submits just tons of crazy bills with crazy names, and not a single one of them has ever been made it out of committee, because they're just like a far-right wish list of craziness. And she titles them some really crazy things too, like securing Americans from the Transportation Insanity Act, so that the TSA cannot use gender-neutral language. Yeah. Like, why is that insane? The Protecting Free Speech Act. So, go ahead.
If your bill contains the word insanity, you've already failed.
Yeah, right. And the Protecting Free Speech Act, so that she can keep social media outlets like Twitter and Facebook from editing their users' content, so anybody can post whatever they want. And the best one I thought was the Stop AOC Act, which has nothing to do with AOC. It just wants to prohibit federal funds from being used for funerals from people who died of COVID, because she's also a COVID denier. You know, it seems like she's more concerned with making a name for herself in the right-wing media than she is with actual legislation. It's like she's got her eyes on a podcast or being a pundit on a TV news show later on. I don't really think she's really serious about legislating. I don't know that she's even really serious about anything the way she runs her life. So, unfortunately, she's in a Republican safe district, so all she has to do is run, and she's going to get elected. I live in a district very, very similar to this. All you got to do is have an R behind your name. I have a friend who has been joking for years that he's going to change his name to Christian Justice and run as a Republican, and he could get elected. I'm sure he would. I'm sure he's right. He's actually left, but he's right about winning. So it's really sad that people like this, and it seems like her, Madison Cawthorn, who fortunately is gone now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, they always run in these far-right agricultural, very urban districts where they don't get any challengers from the other side. So we get like the craziest people in Congress because of that. And then Adam Kinzinger from Illinois, who unfortunately is not running again, came out and has said that he thought that that the Christian Taliban should be taken seriously and warning us about it. And I think we should listen to Kinzinger. He's been doing a great job on the January 6th committee so far. And like I said, unfortunately, he's not running again, which is probably why he's coming out against the big Republican Trump machine. So that's about what I got on it. How about Nate? How would you like to tell us what you think from up north of us?
What was the name that your friend wanted to change to? Was it Christian Justice?
Christian Justice.
Was that it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, I have a competing suggestion. Colt F. Eaglesore. The F used to stand for freedom. Now it stands for a different F word, and I'll let you guys guess which one.
It's okay. We're more than 5 minutes in,
And
Nate.
also, okay, perfect. Also, I would like to remind this individual that we tried the whole church tells the government thing what to do, and it was called the Dark Ages. Yeah, it didn't really work so good.
Nah.
I don't know. I have to say, this name sounds familiar, but the list of U.S. government officials that are fucking terrifying me is really hard to keep up with. I did read, so I was looking into this person, and I looked up a December 21 survey of I think it was about 1,500 respondents, and of those respondents, 8% said they had a very favorable view of Representative Boebert. A 25% said they had a very unfavorable opinion of Boebert. But what really kind of scared me was that a staggering 51% didn't know. They
Mm.
didn't even know who she was. Like, if I had Caligula in my legislative branch, I would fucking know about it, man. That's kind of scary. I think that's maybe a symptom of the problem, is that people they're so tuned out these days. It's so hard to keep up.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's yeah, it is. It's kind of
We
difficult,
we
especially like in the
we
American electorate right now. No, go ahead. What were you gonna
we
say,
have so
Kelley?
many of these guys on the right wing too that I was going to say just that we have so many people on the right now that people don't know who they are. Joe Biggs, Paul Gosar, Louis Gohmert, and these are people just as radical as Boebert is, and people don't know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Boebert and Green get a lot of
Mm-hmm.
media attention, but we have these other guys who are just as bad, who are still trying to pass the same crazy legislation, who are still holding up real legislation to make our lives better. And we need to find out who these people are so we can get rid of them.
Exactly. Cindy, you're
Yeah.
you're you're sitting over there looking at us going, what? So I would like for you to go ahead and chime in with your thoughts.
So, unfortunately, I knew Boebert already because she's, as you said, she's one of the lunatics on Trump's sides, repeating everything he says.
Well, hold on,
Uh,
Cindy. Hold on. We don't know that she's a lunatic, okay? We're not familiar with her behavioral health status. What we can say is that she says pretty lunatical stuff. I don't even know if lunatical is a word, but I just made it one. But continue.
We also know she's a bad cook.
oh, is that so?
Yes.
It's not surprising. Anyway, like 7 years ago, I wrote something about politics, and I said that if the U.S. doesn't change course, there will be a theocracy in 30 years.
Mm.
And in the last couple of weeks, I had the feeling that the GOP is trying their best to outspeed me, because at this rate, it's going to be 10 years and not 30 years. But so I'm not American. I don't know American politics as much, probably as some of you on the panel. But there are two things I can say. First is that this discourse she has, which has been common in the last let's say 6 months, um, it's a pathetic attempt at one single very tiny minority to impose their views on the rest of the population. Because, as we said in many previous episodes, religiosity in the US is reducing slowly, but it's reducing, and more people are identifying as the nuns and ONE because they don't feel like they belong anymore to any religious affiliation. But the last great of fascists are scared to death to become irrelevant and to become, yeah, irrelevant seems to me the really best word here, because they are scared to to be something of the past and to not be taken seriously anymore. And so it's I feel from the outside, I feel like there's a race right now in the US with those Christo-fascists trying to grab as much power as they can. And with those three justices they've been managing to put on the SCOTUS, they've had pretty big wins. And on the other side, you have progressives who are trying to prevent them to do that while they are all slowly dying, because conservatives are mostly old people in the US.
Yeah.
So the question is, will those Christo-fascists manage to turn the US into a theocracy before they're all gone, basically? And the second thing, much quicker, if you look at any metric to judge a society, secular countries fare much better than theocracies in the entire world. Right now, the US is called the richest third world country. That's something I've heard a few times in the last couple of weeks. And even like this, it's already very hard for a lot of people, like women, like black people, like black women, like LGBTQ people. A lot of minorities have a very hard time. So imagine what it's going to be if the US becomes effectively a theocracy. It's going to be a nightmare, not just for the US, but for the entire world.
Yeah, it's very troubling at this particular time. And for the simple fact of the matter is that not only do we have representatives in Congress right now that are legislating and introducing bills to the floor that says really crazy things, as Kelley pointed out, we have lifetime appointments that are backing up these particular ideologies. I know that we're going to get a little bit more into other SCOTUS decisions as we go along in the show, but I really wanted to go back to this whole notion about what Boebert said about being tired of this separation in church and state junk. She said this at a church called Cornerstone Christian Center. And she said that this is specifically what she said. I'm tired of the separation of church and state junk. That's not in the Constitution. It was in a stinking letter, and it means nothing like they say it does. Now, she was specifically talking about a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote about I believe that he wrote it to another Baptist church where he talked about the wall. There has been a wall erected that's separating church and state. But it literally says in the very first clause that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. In other words, that means that, and this is according to the Supreme Court in the 1971 decision when they were actually clarifying what that statute meant. It was three basic meanings. The first one is that the law, whatever law that is going to be proposed, must have a secular purpose. It cannot be theocratical in any shape, way, or form. So nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with a god, nothing to do with any type of establishment, any type of like theocracy whatsoever. The second is that the law's primary effect must be neutral towards religion. So on the flip side, that means that the government can't make laws that intentionally targets religious organizations in the adverse. And then finally, the law must not foster an excessive entanglement of religion with government. And as Nate and Kelley pointed out, the reason for that is because we have historical precedent that shows that when you entangle church and state, or religion and government, however you want to put it, it always fares very badly for the electorate. At Middle Ages, CC here, the Middle Ages, CC here, when the Catholic Church had its tendrils in everything, you know. Even like with Boebert being a COVID denier, I can think of like some of the wackadoodle things that people used to think concerning the Black Plague during the Dark Ages, and how I can think of like one history lesson in Germany where the establishment in that particular area thought that the Black Plague was a curse from God because of Jews. And so there was a sector in Germany at that time that they went in and actually killed like over 1,000 people because of this idea. And a lot of that has to center into religious thinking. So it's not junk, Representative Boebert. It's the main reason why we have a government that is supposed to be representative of everyone, because not all of us are believers, and not all of us believe the same thing. But if we are all governed by a set of rules that have nothing to do with a God or anything to do with a religion, and that we all follow, then we can focus more on a country where we really could be more within well-being, rather than I don't like you because you don't believe in my God, right? So I want to just go around before we wrap up this particular segment. Nate, give me some thoughts that you got swirling around in your head before we move on to segment number 2.
Okay, well, the first thing that popped into my head when I read what Boebert said was her terrible sentence structure, but I tried to stuff the grammar Nazi inside me down. She said, the stinking letter means nothing like what they say it does. Like, okay, first of all, that's not a complete thought. Second of all, I seriously doubt if you've actually read Jefferson's letters to the Baptist Convention, because the Baptists at the time were a minority, and they were worried that they were going to become completely irrelevant and get stamped down. And Jefferson, himself a deist, was trying to reassure them that they had a future in this new secular nation. So, like, you've completely ignored the context of what he was actually writing about. So I would love to get her down, sit her down, and ask, well, if you don't think it means what he says it means, what do you think it means? Because this man literally wrote the fucking Declaration of Independence, and you can't even craft a sentence. Like, what do you think it means?
It's scary that our Congress people can't like speak real English. I just want to put that out there. Like, and I was even thinking about
it's terrible.
That's like so scary. I mean, like, the bar is low, y'all. It's so freaking low.
Have you forgotten who was president a couple of years ago?
No, I haven't. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, we're representatives. They can't formulate sentences. They don't have an understanding of basic sentence structure. And I mean, I don't necessarily consider myself like, a grammar Nazi or anything. Like, my mom used to correct my English all the time, still does. But damn, the bar is low. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead, y'all. Go ahead. I think Nate, were you?
Yeah,
did you
you're absolutely right.
I mean, or did we go into Kelley? Yeah. Go ahead, Kelley.
I was gonna say you're right. I mean, it is scary when people in Congress can't even make a well-versed sentence. It is pretty scary, and it makes you really wonder about who we're sending there and who are the people who are voting for these people. That's what you really got to wonder about. And it goes to show you how important it is for us to get up and do things. We've got to get out and stop this kind of thing. I know she's in a really Republican safe district, but maybe go out and talk to these Republican voters, get them to think about other things, talk to them about issues that are really going to make their lives better, except for these push button social issues, right? And it doesn't take much. I mean, if we get a bunch of people just doing a little bit, a half hour a week, an hour a week, 1,000 little things adds up to one big thing. So, I mean, we really need to get off of our butts and get out there and start changing the world. If we want to make it a better place for everybody.
Yeah. Don't get me to singing Michael Jackson right now. I won't. I won't.
And get rid of.
I constantly get yelled at for singing on ACA shows, so you better not.
Wait 1 second. Kelley, go ahead and finish your thoughts, and then what are you saying?
Okay. You know what? I got lost.
I give everybody
boy, you don't want me to sing. No, I wish I could sing. So does everybody around me.
Everybody's singing. You know.
No, you don't want to hear me sing.
Well, just sign it.
I sing like I'm in jail.
Heal the world. Oh wow.
I sing like I'm in jail.
I don't even want
to. Behind a few bars.
Insert drum right here. Cindy, save us. Save us, Cindy.
I don't know if I have the ability to save you, but every time I hear someone speaking things like that, I can't help but wondering: is this just attention grabbing? Is it attempt to power grab, or do they really think what they say? And that question is, I think, it's essential to fight them, because you can fight someone if you don't even know what they think. If they just say that because they want the 50 votes in this specific church, or do they really believe that? I know it's hard, but that question always bugs me when I hear all those Christofascists and extremists.
Yeah, and you know, I'll just put it this way: when you say like it's difficult to know because you don't know what they're thinking. I remember years ago, I had a former dater person. I don't know what else to call him, but you know, we dated formally, and one of the things that he asked me when we went out to breakfast one time is, "Did you still read minds?" And I told him, "No, I never read minds. I just listen to what you say." And I think that's a I'm just saying, but in that lane, I think that's us specifically here that, you know, can participate in our civic duties should do that. We should listen to what these people are saying. We should pay attention to what people are doing, and actively work against it, especially if it does not represent the people's interests, because that's what we're dealing with right now. My only issue right now with Lauren Boebert is that she's not alone. She's not a lone wolf like Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to say about the Buffalo shooter. He's a lone wolf. Really, honey? Because we just this past weekend on the 4th of July had another mass shooting in Highland Park where 6 people died and 31 people were injured. Same demographic of people, same high power capacity weaponry, and was about to do it again, but decided because he did not plan properly that he was just going to come back, and he got arrested. So this is not a lone wolf issue, and she is not a lone wolf. And there are plenty of people, unfortunately, that's within those positions that are trying to dictate what law looks like. And that's the thing that we all have to be aware of. Like, I think that Nate, you talked about 51% of the people who were surveyed didn't even know who she was, and that's not okay. We should be aware of who. That is very scary. That's extremely scary. We should not be in a position, anybody that is concerned about, you know, the country that you live in, where you don't even know who your representatives are. That's absolutely paramount. You got to know, because you got to know what they stand for, and especially if they stand for your interest. Right? All right.
And as Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Believe them. You got to do it in her voice, Nate, or it does not translate.
I can't do it, or it might come off the wrong way. But if you want to do it, Cynthia, by all means.
Okay, I'll try, and then we'll move on. How's it
Okay.
go? If you wait, say it again one more time. I just completely lost how I went.
When people tell you who they are, believe
Right,
them.
right. When people tell you who they are, believe them. That'll make it real, right? That'll make it real.
That's making a promo reel. Love it. Getting that money.
Snap, 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 snap. Well, before we move on to our next segment, we just want to give a big thank you to both our veteran viewers for getting us to over 11,000 subscribers. So thank you guys so much. So if you are watching us now and you haven't subscribed yet, you need to get on that. So once you subscribe, hit the like button and ring that bell so you always know when a new Nonprofits episode premieres, like every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Time. But you already knew that, right? Let me remind you one more time. It's 3 p.m. Central Time. Like, we premiere a new episode like every 3 p.m. every Sunday, 3 p.m. Central Time. So 3 p.m. Central Time. Sundays. Okay. Now, another thing you could do is share the link to our channel with your friends and your family members and your coworkers. And we say this hypothetical neighbor guy that you don't like, he is completely hypothetical. We have no idea who this neighbor guy is, but share with them anyway, and also share with everyone and anyone. Let's get the word out there so that we can start helping our fundraisers. And are you aware that the atheist community of Austin has another YouTube channel? Did you know that? Did you?
What?
Right? Well, you should be, god damn it. So check out the Atheist Experience Network, a channel where you can find all ACA shows in podcast form. Subscribe at tiny.cc/AEN podcast to listen to episodes of the flagship show of the ACA, the Nonprofits, the Atheist Experience, Secular Sexuality, Truth Wanted, and any and all of our other ACA shows so you don't miss a single episode. All right. Now, moving along to our next segment. Cindy, this is all you. Take us away.
Yes, so we're pretty much staying in this glum SCOTUS decisions. We're talking about this ruling from the SCOTUS about this former coach in public school Prairie case. So we have two articles, one from NBC News by Pete Williams, published June 27th, 2022, and another one by On the Guardian by Moira Donegan, published a day after. So they talk about this case that probably everyone already heard about. It's this coach who is going to the middle of the pitch and takes all his guys and makes a prayer with them, and then he says that it's no, don't worry, it's just a personal prayer. The players, they don't have to be here. It's not mandatory. I listened to the to parts of the talks that they had, and believe it or not, Kavanaugh was stupid. There's no other word. There's no other word to put this.
How do you really feel, Sydney? I can't tell. How do you really feel?
I don't remember who was arguing at this time, but they were talking about how coercion can work in school. Like, if you're not part of the prayer, then even though the coach says, yeah, it's not mandatory, if you're not there, then you probably won't make the team on the next game. And that's an inference. It's not a written rule. It's not said anywhere, but still the players know it, so they are kind of forced to be there. But Kavanaugh didn't agree with that, and that's why him and the others, the other five justices, decided that this was no issue. So, what do you guys think about this?
I think when state-sanctioned prayer in schools is only the second worst decision that your Supreme Court has made this week, that's pretty scary.
Well, I wanted to say that this is a story that we actually covered in the past about this Coach Kennedy that got fired from his from a coaching job in Alabama.
Wasn't fired. He wasn't fired.
Oh, he was not fired. He
was not fired. His contract expired, and they chose not to renew it.
Renew it. Okay, so got it.
But that's the way that the right-wing media likes to frame it, because it's part of this persecution complex, right? They're like, oh, he stood up for what he believed in, and he was shuddered to the side. But to be so freaking silly. But to be honest, if he actually was fired, I would not have a problem with that, because it's talked about. We talked about it before. I know. That's what I said. I don't have a problem with that, only because we talked about this previously, and also it was even recognized by lower courts that he was given several chances by his school to say, "Hey." They didn't even tell him not to pray. They just said, "Can you just do it in a private area? Just go to a private area." Matter of fact, if I can implore the no true Scotsman fallacy real quick, Matthew 6:5 says, I knew you were going there.
I'm going there. I wish I had an organ. I really did. But because I know, I said Matthew 6:5 says, and when you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the corners of the streets, that they may be seen by men. Assuredly, I say to you, they have their reward. That would be the King James Version, New King James Version. So this is the Bible, y'all. And if you are so much a Christian and you are adhering to the statutes of Christianity, this is your word. This is supposedly the word of God. Okay? So why are you taking a knee at the 50-yard line, Coach Kennedy?
Because if you do it inside, then God can see you. He can only see you if you do it on the yard.
I see.
That's basic logic.
You're right, Lindy. You're right. God can't see you privately. He only is omniscient, omnipotent, and also ever present. But he cannot see you in private. You're right.
Yes, he doesn't have X-ray eyes to see through the walls.
That's Superman.
Yeah, he's not Superman. Come on.
Yeah,
Kelley, be reasonable here.
Oh my gosh. But this is going back again, y'all, to this whole thing about the Establishment Clause just being just thrown out the window by the SCOTUS. First we have Boebert saying, I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk. And then we basically have the SCOTUS agreeing with her. Kavanaugh was like, you know what, Boebert? Yeah, I'm tired of it too. He was exercising his right to freedom of religion. You can freedom religion yourself in private, Kennedy. You did not have to do. And then inviting your students to come with you. That's not coercion? I don't know. Y'all help me out. Kelley, what was you going to say?
That's okay. So
go ahead.
I
Nate.
have a. I'll
go ahead, Nate.
Quickly jump in because I want to hear what especially what the two Americans on this panel have to say about this. But I have a bit of a hot take because I actually think he should be allowed to pray. And I think he should be allowed to pray right in the middle of the field if he wants to. Sure. I can't really imagine that crowds of people are hanging around after high school football games to watch this man go out and try to look fancy in front of the crowd. But what he shouldn't be able to do is the altar call, like Cynthia was saying. You shouldn't be able to invite your students out to pray with you, because that gets into sort of what Cindy was saying with the position of power, and maybe if you don't go out and pray, then you get benched or you get mistreated. And especially with a vulnerable group like
Mhm.
teenagers,
Yeah.
especially like teenage boys that play football, like they're part of that team mentality. They want to fit in, they will fit in, whether they agree or not. They're probably going to feel coerced into joining their coach on the field. So I would be okay if he wanted to go out and pray to his invisible friend in the middle of an empty football field. Honestly, I think he'd look pretty freaking silly out there all by himself kneeling down. And the other thing about this guy is that if you actually look up, I didn't do this myself, but I heard this on another podcast that I listened to. But they looked up the actual team's performance, and they're like last. They're like almost dead last in whatever division they're in. So whatever he's doing is just an illustration of the fact that petitionary prayer just kind of really doesn't work, and he's just wasting his time. But what do you guys think? Should he be allowed to walk out into the middle of the field and kneel down and pray to his sky wizard?
Kelley, I'm going to let you, say your piece on that, and then I'll go in.
I agree with Nate. I don't think it's a problem if he goes out and prays, but I want the Satanic Temple to be able to do a ritual out there. I want to see a Hindu ritual from the Hindu family that's at the school. If we're going to do it, let's do it for all the religions, right? And Nate, you were talking about the reason they weren't winning is he was praying after the game. You see, that was one of the problems, and he kind of became a local celebrity because of this. So he wasn't out there alone. There was one point where the spectators in the stands actually hopped over the fence onto the field and knocked over band members, some of the school band members, to get out to his prayer circle. So this became a lot larger than just one guy on the 50-yard line praying, right? And what I really worry about with something like this is, and Cindy brought it up, is now here's the kid who's really good, and he's going to be benched for the season because he's not joining in on the prayer circles, right? It's really troubling, and I'm really worried because we now have 5, possibly 6 with Gorsuch. 5, possibly 6 conservative. So we possibly have 6 conservative Catholics on the bench right now. I mean, we have actually a majority of conservative Catholics, and that's troubling in and of itself. And it should be troubling for Protestants as well, And I would hope that they would start to think about what they really want, because it might not work out the way they want it to go. I'm also really worried because there is a group called America Legal First. It's manned by several ex-Trump staffers, including the guy that asked DACA. He helped adopt the parent-child separation policy on the southern border. And they've gotten the idea that they can get SCOTUS to agree that individual states can institute their own state religions. And I'm not sure that can happen, but I think they might have some legal ground to work with. And because, as you mentioned earlier, Cindy, the Establishment Clause says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. But the 10th Amendment reads, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively.
That's right.
So if Congress can't make that law, it seems to me that the 10th Amendment would let the states do it. And that's something I'm really worried about. And can you imagine a state religion in some places down south? Well, can you tell me how to get to the First Baptist Church? Well, yeah, you go down the road a piece to come to the Fourth Baptist Church, and then go about a mile farther and you'll see the Third Baptist Church. And then you go down about 2 more miles to the Second Baptist Church, make a left, and Go down a mile and you'll see the First Baptist Church right there. And God bless you, sir.
Take a ride at the Piggly Wiggly, and you're gonna find yourself there real shortly.
That's mid-real. Well, that's the loophole, right? That's the loophole, Kelley, that you were mentioning about the 10th Amendment. And that's even like the precedent that SCOTUS actually established, specifically rolling back Roe v. Wade. Now the power to regulate or completely ban abortions is in the state's hands, period. And so since that's the case, they can do basically whatever they want because people do not have the federal protection any longer. So it could be a loophole. I definitely was even listening to some podcasts specifically on NPR where they were actually talking about that, where, some of these decisions specifically by the SCOTUS, if they are taking their hands off of it as far as interpreting as this is a federal protection, and then regulated to know this is states' rights, that could actually be for just about anything that you can think of where either the Fed step in by a court case or if it was done through legislation. So saying well, we can technically say that this particular portion of the law does not cover this kind of thing. So it could be states' rights right here,
So what's the point of the United States in the end?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think the last time
we still vote for one
last time
president
y'all
that's a
had
figurehead.
Yes, there you go. Kelley said what
last
Kelley
time
said.
y'all had a big states' rights issue. It didn't work out so good.
Yeah, last time we had a states' rights issues, my ancestors was enslaved. Just saying. But back to one of the questions that you asked specifically about what we thought about the whole. Are you okay if he went down to the 50-yard line and prayed in public? And I am in agreement with Justice Sotomayor's dissension when she said, to the degree the court portrays petitioner Joseph Kennedy's prayers as private and quiet, it misconstrues the facts. The record reveals that Kennedy had a long-standing practice of conducting demonstrative prayers on the 50-yard line of the football field. Kennedy consistently invited others to join his prayers and for years led student athletes in prayers at the same time and location. The court ignores this history. The court also ignores the severe disruption to school events caused by Kennedy's conduct. So it wasn't a private prayer. It would have been something if it was just him. He goes down to the 50-yard line, he bows his head, he says a little prayer in his head, and then goes on about his business. Or even says, hey, students, I'm about to go ahead and just do a silent prayer. Anybody want to join me? You good. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And if they were even standing there, bowing their heads, saying things to themselves, and then moving along, it would have been a whole different story. But this is not what happened. This is exactly what it did not happen. So if he was being demonstrative in his prayers, that means he was saying things out loud, and people very much so knew what he was doing. So this wasn't something that he kept to himself. And because of that, I absolutely agree with Justice Sotomayor when she said that this is something that the court has ignored. And this is exactly against what the founding fathers wanted when they even crafted the Establishment Clause in the first place. So before we move along, let's just go ahead and just get some final thoughts. Nate, I'm going to start with you, and then Kelley, and then Cindy, and then we'll go into our next segment.
I don't have any problem if you want to talk to your invisible friend, but you have no right to tell my kid to talk to your invisible friend. I think this high school needs a couple more Colin Kaepernicks on the team. Just saying.
Indeed. Kelley?
I am really worried about them trying to make a state religion to break down that wall of the Establishment Clause. And I think that Catholic conservative majority that I just mentioned might be work in our favor because Protestants actually outnumber Catholics by 2-1 in the United States, and the Catholic judges are not, or Protestants outnumber Catholics by 2-1. Is that what I just said? Sometimes both my brain cells get stuck together. And the Catholic judges are not likely to pass something that might hurt members of their own religion, right? And Protestant Catholic wars, I think I heard of that type of thing before. Oh, yeah. Church of England. That's exactly why the Establishment Clause was put there in the first place.
England. And Cindy?
Yeah, I think from the outside, the impression I have is that the SCOTUS just needs to go. The U.S. needs to get rid of this worship of the Constitution and the Founding Fathers. This great experiment, as this Constitution is called, it has failed right now. It's in the time it existed, this Constitution, France went through 5 republics with a different constitution each time. No matter how good the people who wrote the American Constitution were, they were just men. They were fallible men. And so it needs to be adjusted as society changes. You cannot just reinterpret it. It has to be rewritten. You cannot keep laws relevant for 3 centuries. No country has. So SCOTUS needs to go. The Constitution needs to be rewritten. I don't see any way around this.
Well, what I will say specifically about the Constitution is that it was meant to be a living document. That's why we have amendments.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly why we have amendments. So that if we had archaic laws like the Second Amendment, fight me if you want, then we can go ahead and amend that in order for it to actually reflect the times that we're in. Like I will say it again. There is no reason for us to have a well-regulated militia. It's called the National Guard, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force. Okay, that is our well-regulated militia. No citizen needs AR-15s. No citizen needs high-capacity weapons of war. They just don't. And in same in this particular case as well, there are principles that the founding fathers, not slavery, but there are some principles that the founding fathers actually came up with that make sense, and the Establishment Clause is one of them, because it was already precedent that was set, like in England, where they actually broke away from where the church and the monarchy were one. Okay, and we know that even like freedom of religion, freedom to actually express yourself in whatever type of belief system that you wanted to practice at that time. If you were in England or if you were a Commonwealth of England, that was just not the case. So there are some good ideas that, actually exist that's within the United States Constitution. It's just that we just have really bad actors right now that are interpreting them. And with that being, go ahead.
Just one last thing. I'm not trying to
Yes.
entirely agree with that last part. If the Constitution was so great, the United States wouldn't be in that situation right now. It's because there are so many flaws in the way it's written that people can interpret the way they want and do whatever they want. And I'm not saying there were bad people or the Constitution was bad at the time. I think it was a pretty good Constitution at the time, but the writing was not precise enough to prevent any loophole as many as we have today.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I definitely believe that, there are way too many loopholes in the document, and I think that that's the reason why the founding fathers wanted to have an amendment so that
I would love to chime in here, but I feel like we're going to be borrowing heavily from my 4th segment if I do. So I'm just gonna bite my tongue And I'm not going to say the Thomas Jefferson quote. Don't do it, Nady. Don't do it. Oh, don't do it, Nady. I'll hold off. But I think we were just about wrapped up with that particular segment, and we were moving into. Well, are we on segment 4 already?
Segment 3.
We are on segment 3.
Oh, segment the 3. Okay, good. Because I really wanted to get my segment 4 stuff out there, but I will digress for the time being. And all right, segment 3 is the slippery slope of SCOTUS decision. So here we have an MSN article, MSN.com, experts offering their opinion on the fact that Brown versus the Board of Education is not safe. This is by Jessica Washington. It's a good read, and basically we're talking about with the recent removal of Roe versus Wade, other cases that have set precedents could be and almost certainly will be overturned. One of them being Brown versus the Board of Education. So this was a landmark 1954 Supreme Court case in which the justices ruled unanimously that racial segregation of children in schools was unconstitutional. Seems like a no-brainer, but I guess 1954 we actually had to take this up to SCOTUS. It was one of the cornerstones of the civil rights movement. Established the precedent that separate but equal is absolute bullshit, and they are coming for the rest of it. I mean, in Clarence Thomas's judgment, he basically asks for candidate cases to overturn things like Obergefell, Plessy versus Ferguson, even sodomy laws. Like sodomy, like the government is officially trying to weasel its way back into your bedroom. And what really baffles me here is that he is a black man married to a white woman, and only 60 years ago, or 65 years ago, something like that, that was illegal. And now he's coming for the rights of others while cheerfully ignoring the fact that he is likely to be a victim as well, perhaps just not as quickly, and perhaps he won't be alive to see it. So, that makes it okay according to the right wing. So I think we...
Hell, I mean, I've been having sex with myself for like 25 years, and I still am discovering new things. I'm still like weirding myself out. I'm still surprising myself. After all these years, it's still special.
He's a PhD,
yeah,
who believes the Nephilim of the Bible, the ancient giants described in the Bible built the pyramids. Yep, you go to school for like 8 years, and you're like, yeah, man, it was giants.
I know.
I live in a blue state, so people will say, oh, don't worry, your uterus is fine, your rights are fine. But I genuinely give no flying about that when millions of women in over 13 states so far have essentially lost their entire bodily autonomy.
There is truly an afterlife where myself and Ben will go and party, and I will no longer have these rashes that he refuses to look at. If that's the case, what the am I waiting for?
We use inductive reasoning in science because deductive reasoning is rife with fallacies and bias. We use inductive reasoning because that way we look at what the evidence says and draw a conclusion from it rather than trying to rule out conclusions based on the only things that we can possibly think of.
And we also had one of the other articles that I was even reading specifically in Louisiana that was thrown down to the lower courts is that even the gerrymandering and the disenfranchisement of, a predominantly Black district is going to actually lose its voting power because they redrew the lines and the SCOTUS said, oh, no, that's okay. This is the issue that we're having now, that we are at a point where anything and everything that has precedent for years and years and years and years and years can just be thrown out of the window just because SCOTUS says. And I even remember specifically having a discourse long time ago when I was taking Constitution about, so with looking at the powers of the government between the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judiciary branch, who has the most power. And the way that it was supposedly written within our Constitution is that all of these particular branches have the same amount of power. They're supposed to keep each other in check, right? But that's not happening now, because, and a lot of it is because we have deadlock with our Congress, and the only thing that our president is doing is like, you need to pass this, you need to pass this, you need to pass this, and Congress is like, psha. That's literally what they said. I saw that in a decision when they were trying to go ahead and just go over some bills. Psha. So, and that's what we're dealing with right now. So we already seen erosions of protections with affirmative action from the 1964 64 Civil Rights Acts. We already seen erosion of protections when it came to Voters' Rights Act, and that was all SCOTUS. And we could actually see this being something that's even older than Roe be eroded as well. So even though, like I said, I don't necessarily want to become an alarmist or be an alarmist, but I'm being an alarmist because we're seeing it now. We're seeing actually the after effects coming up now. Hey,
Kitty.
They're
going further.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, now that we saw with trigger laws all of a sudden just go into effect, like right then, right there. Oh no, women are going to be fine. This is going to say the states' rights. I said, yeah, but states came over and made horrible, horrible bans. And even like we even see like even more so where states are saying that they're trying to make it to be criminalized if you happen to travel out of the state to go to another state to have an abortion. So it's and we're not seeing proper proper oversight to really keep these checks and balances and safe in sync with one another. It's those particular borders are being eroded piece by piece by piece. Who in the world knows what is coming out next? And I was supposed to introduce a particular article, but the Dark Overlord took me, so I'm going to go ahead and give it to my colleagues so they can close us out. Cindy, I'm going to start with you, then Kelley, and then Nate.
Yeah, I think that the question is not whether they're going to go after all those rights. It's in what order they're going to do it. That's that's the only question we have, basically. And you were talking about the problem with passing laws and being able to work as a government. I suggest people to look into the story of a guy in Wisconsin who just decided that he was going to stay where he was. And so you have those situations in many states. And as you said, there are no longer checks and balances. And you cannot trust the states. You cannot trust much the federal government either. So I understand that so many people in the US right now are overwhelmed by everything that happens. They don't know if they will go to vote because they don't see the point. Democrats keep saying, yeah, vote for us in November and we'll give women the right to have an abortion. But the system is so rigged by the Republicans right now with, as you said, gerrymandering and voter suppression, that I don't think that's a viable solution. They should be trying something else. So, but yeah, as Kelley was saying, fight, get up and fight. You need to go vote first and then do more than that, because that won't be enough. Voting won't be enough.
Agreed. Agreed.
Right.
Kelley?
You don't change you don't change laws in the United States by political means to begin with. You do it by making a social impact. You make a majority of people change their minds, and then they start following or voting for politicians and putting them into power to take care of those ideas and follow through with them and codify them into law. So what we really need to do is go out. We need to talk to the people that don't believe in what we believe, and talk to them, like I said before, about things that are actually going to be impact their lives. Talk about economics. Talk about that one really bad law that everybody hates, whether they're on the left or the right, and get people that are on the opposite side of the aisle on a lot of these social issues over to your side, and then start changing their minds about the social issues. But get them on your side first.
Indeed. And finally, Nate from up north.
Nate from up north thinks that y'all just need to expand your Supreme Court because 9 people cannot possibly speak for a nation of 300 million. Like, I looked into this just a little bit. The UK has 12 on their Supreme Court. Now, they do dress like the Pope, but I'm not gonna come down on them too hard because the Canadian Supreme Court dresses like Victorian Santa Claus. So I'll let their dress go. But the Germany, 16 justices, Norway, 20 justices, and the French have, now I'm no legal expert, but the French have 6 chambers made up of 15 judges each. So, I mean, do the math. Like, again, it seems like more voices is always a good thing. And 9 just, it isn't enough. It's too easily manipulated.
Yeah. I don't disagree with anything that you guys said. Hey, Kitty. And we definitely need a shaking up at the federal level down. But the only way that that's going to happen is if people make it happen. I was listening to a story this morning about actually more Gen Zers and millennials are actually starting to throw their hat into the legislative race, like on the federal level. And I to be honest, like the only way that we actually was able to get any type of transformative change is 1, the people demanded it, and 2, we had a new set of ideals that was introduced into Congress, and that's something that we definitely need at this particular juncture, and that's something that I hope that people would actually pick up on and do their due diligence to make it happen. And on that note, I got more stuff to say, so bear with me.
We've got another 4th segment, Cynthia. There's a 4th
we
segment.
do.
Yes.
I know. That's why I'm trying to get to do the thing, Julie. So you out there, hold on. Where's my finger? You can become a member of the channel for as little as 99 cents a month. So click the join button below the video, and this will give you access to special chat emojis. And also, we have a brand new store. So please visit tiny.cc/merchaca. That's tiny.cc/merchaca to get your favorite items like t-shirts, hoodies, and coffee mugs. And you can check out new items like beanies, phone cases, and tote bags. And all ACA shows features a special limited edition item each month. So be sure to check out the store for NP merch and merch from all of our other shows. And check this out, y'all. Not only am I the conductor of this show, I am also a client. You like that one? Yeah.
It's
cool.
Beautiful.
I know, right? And with that being said, let's move on to our last segment. Nate, take us in.
All right, so I've been saving my best notes for this final segment because this is really the crux of the entire problem and why all this shit is happening. It is the Supreme Court's fake ass notion of originalism. So we've got two articles here from Politico. One is just basically talking about the judicial philosophy of originalism, and that it requires a very firm grasp of history, which none of these people, well, most of them seem to lack. We've got a second article that is talking about the history of the Supreme Court making bad calls, how hard it can be to come back from those bad calls, and how long it takes and what the process is for that. So we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I just want to say, first of all, as a Canadian, I have read the U.S. Constitution. I have read the Federalist Papers. Not all of them. I'm working my way through, but like 12 were written by Jefferson, 20 were written by Madison, and like a staggering 84 were written by Hamilton because he was just absolutely prolific and crazy.
And we needed a musical. We needed a musical for it too. That's the reason why Hamilton wrote all those.
I'm not allowed to sing, Cynthia. I'm not allowed to sing. Don't tempt me to sing Hamilton because I will do it, and the crew will be super mad at me. But I won't do it. I won't do it.
My bad. Go ahead.
we talked about the Constitution being a living document, and I think that is the real strength. And Cindy kind of touched on this. Like, who cares what people 250 years ago thought? Well, even they realized that they were flawed and that things would change. And the quote that I wanted to say for this segment was a Jefferson quote that said, "I'm not an advocate for frequent changes in laws and constitutions, but laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind." So right there, the whole notion of originalism goes right out the damn window. Like these men built a flexible document, and SCOTUS cheerfully ignores that. Like, where does this end, right? If you're going to get down to, well, if it doesn't actually say the words in the Constitution, well, then it doesn't count. Because if you're going to go that way, I mean, if I were an American, I would strap on some fucking grizzly bear mittens and be like, well, it says the right to bear arms. I'm going to go down to the Senate and maul a few friggin' senators that I don't like, right? Where does it end here, people?
Oh my goodness!
I don't think there's anything wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. I might have lost you with grizzly bear mittens, but I'll try to come back.
But that's okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with venerating the people that founded the United States. Like, I think the United States has arguably the coolest origin story of any nation on the planet. They were progressive for their time. Were they perfect? Absolutely not. Were they deeply flawed, problematic? Through a modern lens, of course they were. Of course they were. But they built in a mechanism so that later generations could alter and change this system. And what is happening right now is a complete reversal. It's a complete bastardization of the spirit of the founding document of what used to be arguably the greatest country on earth. I think y'all are down out of the top 10 at this point, but I still believe in you. Your neighbor to the north is deeply frightened, but we still believe in you. Guys, what do you think?
I'm glad that somebody believes in us, Kelley.
Yeah, I'm glad somebody believes in us too, honestly. It seems like originalism it seems like originalism is just an excuse to push their agenda. I mean, when they start to cherry pick,
of course it is,
just single. Yeah, right. Exactly. They start to cherry pick just single sentences or single quotes and think that the person stood for everything they stood for is all summed up in that one sentence. And that's what they're doing. And they're taking a lot of these sentences totally out of context as well. So to me, it just, like I said, originalism just seems like, all right, this is our way to pass our far right agenda. And we're in for a long ride here, folks. Clarence Thomas was 43 when he was appointed by the first George Bush. He's now the oldest justice on the bench at 74. He shows no signs of quitting, and he seems to be in pretty good health. Kavanaugh, he's the oldest of Trump's appointments. He's 57. Gorsuch is 54. Amy Coathanger Barrett's only 50. They're probably going to be there for at least another 20 to 25 years and possibly longer. There have been 10 justices that served over the age of 82. RBG was 87. The oldest, Holmes, served until he was 90. These people, this majority, and they're a majority, remember, they're not going away anytime soon. But as Cindy mentioned, we do supposedly have checks and balances that our founding fathers were smart enough to put into place. And if we can get enough legislators in there to codify these things into law, these justices have to follow those laws. So, I mean, that's the best way to fight back against this faux originalism. And as everybody says, the Constitution was never meant to be interpreted originally anyway. So, but we need to get rid of this idea that we should go back 250 years to what this country used to be, because it wasn't as good as it is now. We're in a much better position, and we need to keep moving forward instead of moving backwards like these guys are trying to take us. So that's and without sounding like a broken record and going off about how we got to change things, I'm going to quit right now.
Well said, Kelley. Well said.
I hear you. What you got to say, Cindy? You're muted, hon.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My cat has been acting up in the last couple of minutes. Yeah, Kelley.
I was going to say your cat is actually objecting to the SCOTUS, but we understand. Continue.
Yeah, everything that Kelley said is right, but I think this law concept they just made up, it's just another way to say we are conservatives, we don't want anything to change, and the only way to do that is to absolutely stay in the first words of the constitutions. Mm-hmm. Despite everything I've said and what I say sometime on other shows, I am also a little bit optimistic about the future of the US, because the large portion of young people is progressive, and they are the future of the country, and I think we can be hopeful that they will be able to build a country that will last much longer than the one that's currently being fought for. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic, but not in the very, very short term. I think it will take some years before this generation you were talking about, Cynthia, takes power and makes things much better. Now, on the specific low side of this segment, I'm not an American. I can't talk much about this aspect, but yeah, I think it's just a way to codify conservatism.
Yeah,
it's another way, as I said at the beginning, it's another way to impose to the majority the will of a minority.
Well, I will say this, since you know what, we love to try to end these things on a light note as best as possible. And since you brought up young people, I want to, and we also talked about Brown versus the Board of Education. There was this guy that some people may have heard of called Thurgood Marshall, who actually argued Brown versus the Board of Education, which aptly overturned Plessy versus Ferguson, which is separate but equal, because when you actually examine is separate equal, it's not. And especially when you saw the resources specifically in the education system at that time period, in areas where it was predominantly Black versus predominantly white, it was literally night and day. He, my friends, was 32 years old when he argued that case. And he ended up becoming a Supreme Court justice until the day that he died. And I think that we've already established that, this faux originalism is just basically cherry picking points that you want to adhere to and points that you don't want to adhere to in order to fit a particular ideology, worldview, and agenda. And we see you, SCOTUS. So I am hopeful because we do have a section of young people that see the issue and are starting to be more aware of what is going on in their country and wanting to step up. And yes, they are the future. And no, I will not sing Whitney Houston right now. But I'm hoping that I would see within this particular body of people that are coming up, more people who are looking at the direction of our country and saying, nay, nay, we want better. Remember, the majority of people who were marching during the civil rights movement were young people, and they got sweeping legislation passed. We can do it again, people. We can do it again. So let me just give you some. So with that, I just want to just give you guys some final words. Not worlds, but words. This is, we only on one world right now, just on one world. Just one. That's all. We in a universe with a lot of worlds. Yeah, a lot of worlds around here, but we only on one. Yes. So
many worlds. Yes.
Many worlds.
In another world, in another universe, there's a Democratic liberal Supreme Court right now in the United States. Yeah.
If we want to go to the multiverse, we can do that. but I just want to say,
I mean,
Nate, damn it. Well, just want to implore all of you that you can also join our fan social media outlets. You can find most of the nonprofit hosts on the Atheist Community of Discord by going to tiny.cc/ACD Discord and on Facebook at tiny.cc/FBNP. And if you would like to support the show, you can do that by going to patreon.com and becoming a patron. Yes, you can do that. And you will go to tiny.cc/PatreonNP. And if you find yourself already shopping at Amazon, support the Atheist Community of Austin by shopping at smile.amazon.com and selecting the Atheist Community of Austin as the beneficiary. Be sure to use that link to also help out the ACA, and we really appreciate it. And people, we value your feedback. We really, really do. So please tell us what you like, what you don't like in the comments, because you do. And also email us so that we can actually use the mailbag interstitial. I absolutely ask you all to do this every damn week. Why in the fuck don't you listen to me? But if you want to send us an email, you can go to nonprofits at atheist-community.org. Okay? And also visit the Atheist Community of Austin's official website at atheist-community.org on the latest of what's been happening, and feel free to contact the ACA at tv@atheist-community.org. And I'm going to give everybody a 20-second wrap up. So Nate, fire away. You're on it.
Okay, I don't want to get into trouble again, but this cherry picking has got to stop. The Second Amendment does not refer to Cousin Merle's right to own an M60 and walk into an Arby's. It literally says well-regulated, and it's referring to a reserve army, a militia. Has absolutely nothing to do with private gun ownership. The author of the Bill of Rights attempted to pass legislation to make it illegal to carry firearms like you were living in the fucking Wild West. So wake up, people, and learn your history.
Wake up, sheeple. Pew, pew. Kelley? You got 10 seconds.
I got one thing to say. Be the butterfly that starts the hurricane. That's all.
Love it. And 5 seconds for Cindy.
You mentioned Smile. If you order on Amazon with Smile, you will get an email every quarter to tell you how much Amazon gave to the ACA, and it's roughly about $900 every quarter. So that's not enough. People use Smile every time you go to Amazon.
Every time. Every goddamn time. And send the fucking emails every time. I keep telling you all to send the goddamn email. Send the fuck. I want to use the mailbag interstitial. I really, really want to do this. Damn it. Do what you're told, y'all. do what you're told. But I just want to thank my panel.